Welcome back to another Wednesday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your Wednesday host, Yeka. Thank you so much for being here. And before we get into this week's topic, I want to give a shout out and a welcome to the new substitute host. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch their introduction videos, definitely go back, take a look at last week. I know that I, for one, am really excited to see what this new bunch of folks are going to have to say on the topics coming up. So, this week we are talking about open circles, running them and attending them. So, our viewer asks what our experiences have been with open circles in the past, and do we have any advice for running or attending an open circle? So, I have attended some open circles, I've never run any. I don't have a lot to say about that simply because it's not something that's a big part of my practice. There are some pagan groups in the area, and I have definitely gone to events in larger areas that have a bigger community or bigger culture surrounding that. Here, I live in an area that has a lot of New Age, a lot of general different kinds of woo and things like that. So there's a lot of activities going on, but they aren't always presented as pagan circles. But I have gone to a few. In terms of my advice for running them, because I have not run open circles before, I have run a couple of small private circles. My advice, there's a book that I read, and it was maybe, I haven't read it in like a decade or something like that, but I remember thinking that there was some good solid advice in that, and that was Ritual Craft by Amber and Azrael K, which are local. I mean, they live like 50 or 60 miles from me, but they run the Ardentane Pagan Center. And this particular book I thought was great in terms of crafting ritual. It's very Wicca-centric, that they are Wiccans from a Wiccan tradition. But I don't have the book. I have the book with in a box somewhere, but not with me. So I will put a picture of the cover right here for you. That has some pretty interesting information in there. In terms of attending an open ritual, I have a little bit more advice I can give there, and my advice would be pretty much the same going into any different tradition. I think that there's a lot of overlap between any sort of gathering that one is going to, but especially one where there might be emotions, might be a little bit more raw, a little bit more open. And that advice would be to listen. And this would really be for the facilitators as well. If you're a facilitator or an attendant, is to listen to, and not just listen, but listen with all of your experience of what is going on around you, what is the general mood, are there cultural pieces going on? Is just because you might assume that everybody is from the same larger culture that you're from doesn't mean that there aren't small subcultures, and that every little community has its own culture and its own little pieces to pick up on and to be aware. And the more aware you are of those, the better you are able to respond to those and to help whatever that is go smoothly, and whatever your needs of the situation, make sure that you are getting those met because you're more aware of what's going on. In terms of open, I suppose I should have started with this, an open circle I take to mean one in which it isn't, the attendance list was not carefully curated. So it's maybe an event, a public circle at a park, or in some sort of public space, or maybe something a little bit more intimate, but still something that lots of people can come to, and who knows who might come, like in a new age shop or a witchy shop or tea shop or something like that. So those are both open circles. I think that the level of awareness and guarded one might need to have in a public space would probably be much larger than that in a private space. And if I was setting up a public ritual, I might consider having some people whose roles were to help explain, help integrate those who are coming to watch and spectate into what is going on in the circle, and kind of help them with some of the etiquette and manners and whatnot, and just be really good communicators who are those think on their feet, don't miss a beat kind of people, just to help with that. In a smaller setting, in your tea shop kind of setting, that might not be as necessary, but whoever is facilitating the ritual itself probably would be served by being someone of that, with those sorts of skills and that sort of charisma. The third question from this topic is, do we believe it is important or beneficial to participate in your local pagan community if you have one, or do you consider it unnecessary? So I think, again, that depends on what the individual is looking for. For me, I have tried a couple of times and not really clicked, not really felt like I fit, and have usually just brought my practice back into a much more intimate setting. So my friends and family, that's who it's about for me. So we celebrate the holidays together, we experience being part of the seasons and nature together, and sharing our values on that level. So we definitely have a community, but it's not I don't have a coven or anything like that. And a lot of the people who I share values with are not necessarily pagan. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. And so the community itself, for me, pagan is part of me, part of my identity, but it is not the entirety for me. And parts of me, some of those pagan parts, can be fed and nourished from places that don't use the same worldview or the same framework as me. So that's a little bit longer than I thought I was going to do this topic, but I do hope that there was something useful, something interesting to you in that. And of course, as always, if you have anything to share in the comments, we would love to read those, love to see those. And until next week, have a wonderful time and take care.